Hello and welcome to another episode of the MARF Files. This is the part 2 of the quantized section that we were talking about in the last episode. So last episode we were quantizing random voltages through the external inputs to maybe make them a little bit more musical or kind of fall into a just a chromatic scale. Seeing what they can kind of do on their own while also kind of sequencing octaves of those random voltages. In this episode, we're kind of going to talk about presets and kind of using them to have a set of what I kind of talked about last time. You can't really think of the quantize as having like you would in a Eurorack system or a quantizer, where you kind of set your scale and your type of scale, and then like the root node of the scale. But with the MARF, you can kind of set presets to do that for you. So what I have a few presets of, and I'll kind of actually show you the functions of getting to a preset. Once you kind of have your patch going and you want to save something, you press down on this clear button and you find what slot you want to save that patch into, and then you press down on the clear button again. And then I obviously didn't press down on clear right there because I didn't want to save this in that section. And then to load something, it's kind of the opposite. You press up on clear, then you go to where you have that preset loaded, and you press up on clear. So it's down to save, up to load. So I kind of think of that as always like load up when I'm getting back to my presets. What I've done for a few different preset slots in here is saved different scale modes and 2 octaves of them, which I kind of have you see right here, where I kind of I will put things into a limited range, and so right now kind of sweep through. It goes from the kind of first note. Oh, sorry. And then I go up another octave. And then actually what I'll do is we'll also set, which we kind of talked about in the last episode, the overlap programming, where you can switch over to the other kind of set of memory to kind of patch up different options within your voltage ranges, operating modes, time ranges, and things like that. So I then can hit display, press the stage number to the right, and then that shifts over. And so then I kind of have the same thing set up, but I have it the next 2 octaves up. So we go back to listening to that, or there. So just the octave or 2 octaves up, and switch that back down. So one thing I like to do, so then I can put one oscillator. I kind of have what my, general setup for, a kind of a dual sequencing voice going on. I have each of the outputs going into the pitch inputs of the 258 oscillator, having the all pulse outs go into a 281 channel for each of those, into the low pass gate, up into the mixer. We can. So I have these playing at the same rate, and they're kind of going to shift out of phase a little bit, which is kind of fun to do. I do that quite a bit. But then I can shift one oscillator over into the other programming, so I'll switch the square wave over to the higher octave. So yeah, a scale. So all it is a scale over and over. Not that compelling, but kind of the whole thing about doing this is I can then use random from the 266 to address the stages of the MARF and each of these oscillators separately. So then we're kind of using these random voltages to select a specific stage or a note in this out of these 2 octave sets of scales. So best way to kind of set that up, I've got a let's see here. Actually, I don't have this set up, so I'm going to add a pulse out to the pulse out 1, and put that into the random. Looks like I missed a few stages there. Okay, so now every time the stage of this clock on the left function generator steps, it's going to pulse the quantized random voltage. And so I will take that voltage and I'll run that into the external input of that function generator. And then, so basically any time that, and I'll switch that to external, so now it's going to read this. Anytime then we strobe this function generator, it's going to look at this voltage and then address it accordingly in the stages of the MARF. So I'm just manually doing that right now, but we want to set that up automatically. So where's my patch cable? There it is. I'm going to take the all pulses out, and we're going to just have its clock kind of strobe itself. So now we're looking at the quantized random voltage output on the 266 address these notes within the MARF. Then we also kind of have its functions of the random in our advantage as well. So the whole quantization knob, the further down you have in your quantization stages, if it's at 1, it's only going to bounce between 2 values, which you can see it's kind of just bouncing between 1 and 16. So we're just getting those octave jumps right there. But then we can bump that up a little bit, and we then have like 3 different stages that it can go to. So now it kind of goes to the middle as well in 9. So we're kind of actually getting just 3 octaves right there, the low, the middle, and the high end of this scale. So we can add more to our quantization, and we get more notes. And you just kind of keep on going on up. So you can kind of, while this is random, you do still have some kind of control over where this thing might choose its stages from. So all the way up, it's going to have kind of more options that it's choosing from. We can also switch which output it's using between the 2 end states or the n+1 states, and you're going to kind of still get different notes that it's going to want to pull from. So at the same time, we can do the same thing with the other function generator. So I'm going to turn that one down. I'm going to do the same thing where I'm going to add pulses to all the to the 1 pulse output on our overlap programming. And I'll take that and put it into the stored random voltage. I'm going to take its probability distribution output, the lower output, into our external input. And grab another chord so we can then strobe itself. So kind of the same thing what we were doing with the quantized random voltage up there. We're kind of selecting how many different stages it's going to use randomly to address these. You can kind of use the distribution to either have it only bounce around in like the lower octave, as we're kind of seeing here because we have it in the low section. As we move it up, we got it in the middle. We can now kind of see it's kind of grabbing a bit more from the middle now, or it's kind of going back and forth. Mainly staying in the middle, but it will get higher and lower periodically. And then if we go high, it's really kind of staying up here. It looks like it does kind of, I don't know, like go so high that it wraps back around to 1, even though I don't really hear that lower note come through. So I have these kind of clocks totally unquantized. Like I don't have a separate clock clocking them both or anything like that. They're just kind of free running, which, you know, is fun. Like I was saying, kind of get like phasing things going. I can adjust like one clock to be a little bit at a time with it, and you kind of hear that fluttering back and forth as they're kind of going in and out of phase with each other. But what's also nice is kind of we can slow things down, add, you know, longer envelopes if we want to. So maybe I will, let's see here. I'm gonna start. Adding, I'm gonna change the time range to these. Yeah, I guess we'll go 30 on all of these. And I can open up the envelopes a bit more. Add some like reverb or effects. So yeah, using all this random, but keeping it within the scale keeps everything kind of musically coherent with each other. Another thing I've set up, because you know we're just in this, we're only based on the tuning that we started out with on our oscillators. I tuned them to the same root note, but we could use like a controller to change either one or both of these oscillators. So I'll change the note of this sawtooth. So yeah, kind of nice to just have random take over. And, just by nudging it one way or the other, can kind of, take a somewhat random patch, make it still musical. And I'll kind of set things like this up as I work throughout the day and kind of change little parameters. Maybe you want to add some slopes to a few things. Just to change things up. You can then kind of put things back to be on the same within the same 2 octaves. So I've just done that too. So now we're kind of both dealing in these lower octaves. So yeah, that's just kind of like a starting point for this type of patch. You can get much more creative with how you want to clock these things. You can kind of cross clock each of the function generators. I'll probably show that in a upcoming video soon. So their clocks are kind of relatively linked to one another, and use some other clocking source or use some sort of pulse divider and keep things kind of more in sync with one another. But yeah, I think that does it for this episode of the MARF Files. Thanks for tuning in.